One is not allowed to sell to a guy, nor to right before Shabbos begins. Lo tani imo, nor to help him load his animal. Lo magbiin imo, nor you're not allowed to load him up. El kadesh shagil mo korv, unless he can reach a nearby destination before Shabbos begins. Beis Hillel matir, Beis Hillel says it's permissible as long as he leaves your house before Shabbos begins. It's fine. Ezu makom korov. What is considered to be a makom korov, a near place which he has to reach before Shabbos begins? Kai damar Shmuel, like Shmuel said, kagon min chutra lenarda. The distance from chutra to narda, that's a nearby place where you can reach before Shabbos begins, and that's sufficient. I guess it's nearby. Okay, chutra and narda are next to each other. So too, it's the same idea. Easter boy Meimar, there are others who took a different shiur. They said there has to be enough time before Shabbos begins, according to Beis Shammai, for the guy to get to his house, right, with whatever he's carrying. Easter boy Meimar, and some want to say Achumagil Iro. It's be enough time before Shabbos begins for the guy to take his load, which he took from the Jew, to his own city. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you don't need that much. Rather, Pesach, as long as he goes out from the place where the opening is, meaning from the door of the Jew's house, even if the Shabbos begins immediately thereafter, that is sufficient, and he's allowed to give the guy that load right before Shabbos. That's like Rabbi Sil, Rabbi Yochanan Zudi Rabbi Yossi. This is the words of Rabbi Yossi. In other words, what I'm about to tell you, Rabbi Yossi said that Rabbi Akiva Balachriel di Rabbi Sil, the Akiva is coming to determine what Beis Hillel meant. In other words, yes, like you said.
Why does Beis Shammai feel this way? So what if the guy is being Shabbos?
It's Mar Zayin. It looks like he's working on your behalf because he left your house. So, the implication is that he was carrying for you, even though he's not really, but that's the implication. Okay? One cannot give a guy with the condition that he's going to go out and take something out on Shabbos. Not of Yotza Einat Zokuklo. If he takes it and goes on his own, then it's not your problem. It's hard to conceive of this in a house, but I guess in a city with an eruv or a chutzner with an eruv, and it's very simple, right? You give it to him, right? If he then leaves it, that's his problem, not your problem. Okay, so the main thing is that you can't make the condition with him or intend for him to leave with the object he's carrying. Similarly, you can't give a dog an object with the intent that the dog will carry it out. Not of the otza, if the dog happens to carry it out, ain at zokuklo, you're not concerned. In other words, it doesn't bother you because you didn't intend for the dog to take out whatever, the bone or whatever you gave the dog. Tani, learn. Umnin akum, non-Jewish craftsmen, shoyuosim im Yisrael b'soch beisol sheYisrael, who are working for a Jew in a Jew's house, usher, that's forbidden for them to work on Shabbos for you. If it's within their own houses, not through working by you, but they're doing the work in their own place, mutter, that's permissible. Rav Shimon Lozer said, when is this true? But kiboles, when you're contracting the work. Okay, when in other words, he's working on contract, not getting paid by the hour or the day. Avos is getting paid per diem, then also it's forbidden. When is it true? When the stuff is severed from the ground. But if it's something which is connected to the ground, in other words, even building trades, he's building for you, so then it's also even if he's a contractor. Which is a very famous halacha, one is not allowed to have a contract to work on one's house on Shabbos. Even though it's bekibolas, even though he's contracting, not getting paid per diem, it's still forbidden. It's too big a mar sign. Chazal forbade it. Okay? If, however, it is a different city, benkach or benkach mutzer, then it's okay because nobody perceives that. There's a whole shiloh, what's considered nowadays a different city. If you have people building for you downtown, is that considered to be a different city than where the Jews live? There are many different shilohs about that.
The truth is, today, who really knows who owns the building?
Well, that's sure. You know who's building a house in your
Well,
neighborhood.
if you're talking about a house, no, man,
Yeah.
about commercial property, you don't.
Well, very often there's signs.
You just.
Yeah, sure. They put signs up. Who's building the building? Sure, it's right. I mean, it's
Who's
possible.
building the building? Who owns the building?
No, I don't. Well,
Well,
I don't know.
without
Sure.
a mortgage, if the bank owns the mortgage, you're just borrowing money.
Still, the bank doesn't own the building. You own the building. They have a lien on the building, but it's also for you to. I don't think it's mutter for you to build on Shabbos. I know the Reichmans. They never built on Shabbos. They always had all projects cease. So, don't worry. Don't worry. How that you should have a fraction of what they have after their mapola. Okay, you shouldn't be so worried about them. Okay. Right. If it's another city, then it's mutter for that mutter. They're allowed to build regardless. Mal benkach ubenkach. What does it mean? Benkach ubenkach. As we just iterated, bein betolish bein mechubar. Whether it's stuff which is severed to the ground, connected to the ground. Bein beschir bein bekibolos. Whether it is per diem or by contractor. Says where no, not that far. Rabbi Ila said, Ben betlosh ben b'chubar. Yes, it can be both connected or disconnected from the ground. Uvad b'kibos, but it must be contractor. You cannot pay by the day. Rabbi Shimon bar Karsa, Rabbi Achos said, B'Shabbos, by Shabbos, the case we just saw, that contracting is mutter, but per diem is also B'Shabbos and B'Evel. You're not allowed to have a worker work for you when you're an Ovel, Rachmana litzlan, right? You can't have workers do your work for you. Uva avodah zara.
During the weekend, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's halacha l'maisa. You're not allowed to concern yourself during the week of Shiva at all with anything to do with your work.
You're not supposed to concern yourself, but you're saying, but it's not about concerning yourself. That's not the issue. We're saying that somebody's working for you. You can't have somebody work for you.
You can't hire somebody to work for you during that time.
The way you're phrasing it now implies that you're initially hiring them during the period of availance. How about prior to
Same thing. Same
In
thing.
a store keep.
Store has to be closed. Yeah. Store has to be closed during Shiva. Yeah. I mean, if there's another owner, then obviously the other owner has the right to keep it going. But as far as you're concerned, you're part of the shutfus. You can't give up for that week. Rabbi Shimon bar Karsa b'shem Rabbi Achos said again, b'Shabbos ve'evil uva avodah zara. Avodah zara is halacha, which is kind of out of left field, nothing to do with our sugya, but you're not allowed to rent your house to a guy who's going to worship avodah zara therein. Now that's, for instance, rent your house to a Hindu. So this is all brings up all sorts of problems nowadays.
This is renting the house.
Renting, right. Selling is okay. Once you sell, there's no problem. It's not yours anymore. But renting, there's all problem with businesses which are open on Shabbos and stuff like that. Can you rent your store to a business which is going to be open on Shabbos? This is not a partial thing. Renting, I guess, also is a problem. The truth is, if you think about it, renting should be a problem. Renting a house, an apartment, for somebody who's not even avodah zara. So we Baskin Christians are not of the avodah zara, right? Lakula, but Shaila is what about the Hindu, a Pakistani? I don't know. It's a good question.
So it says, but here it says that it doesn't come to the person who's owning avodah zara. It says to the person to avodah zara.
Imachnis bo akum. Look at the carbonata. Uva akum she'asali so liskor by beisul akum imachnis bo akum. If he puts in avodah zara, and they should nikra al shmo because it's your house. Everybody knows it's your house.
So he has to bring in the avodah zara.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not just the person per se. So you're saying somebody has idol worship.
Ketchkas. Yeah.
He has little statues or something.
Buddhas. Yeah. That's what it's asking here. Okay. When it's now allowed to send letters in the hands of non-Jewish mailmen, lo be'erev Shabbos, not on Friday, lo b'chamisha b'Shabbos, nor on Thursday. Beishamei osrim afilu b'revi, Beisil asos even on Wednesday. Well, Beisil matir, Beisil says permissible. Now, permissible sounds like it's only matir on Wednesday, of course, not on the not on Thursday or Friday. Our post offices are structured differently, obviously. In those days, when you sent a letter carrier, you were personally sending him to carry a letter somewhere, right? Nowadays, it doesn't work that way. So therefore, nowadays, we really don't answer, even putting in the mailbox a moment before Shabbos, as many of us are prone to do. But that's hypothetically. Hypothetically, if you send somebody specifically for you, so it would be usher, yes.
Well, you know that he's going to be picking up the delivery anyway. From the mail.
Right, because there's so many letters there, right?
But there's an extra letter there because you put it. So
right, but that work is not not unique, so therefore.
Personally appoint him to be.
That's right. Okay. Amrol of Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, the secretary of Mr. Kohen is obviously a very pious individual. Shlonim tok sovo bi'arakum mi'olam. He never gave a letter to a goy. Why? Because he was afraid the goy would not deliver it, but transport it on Shabbos. Emar Fishini Yamagadon was not allowed to set sail to sea, lo be'erev Shabbos, lo b'chamisha b'Shabbos. Not a...
Can I just go back a second? In terms of sending a letter,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. This is just a person, this non-Jewish person agreed without pay to take the letter, or was he paid?
No, it was paid. Yeah.
He was paid to do it.
Yeah, sure.
What happens if he volunteered?
Same idea, though. What would be the difference?
I don't know.
No, he's doing malach for you. It's no good.
Just because the fact he's your shliach?
Yeah. That's part of Amir Lakum.
What about FedEx?
FedEx, I don't know. I think FedEx is nowadays is really like mail. I guess the problem there by FedEx is on when they deliver.
2-day delivery.
2-day delivery, and it's an individual delivery. So there are people who are machmir on that. The answer would be that you're not the guy who delivers is not the guy you appointed. It's the guy because it's not one guy who takes from beginning to end. So by the time it gets there, that's somebody else really, who the company has sent, not you. And that would be the heter. I don't know. I think it's bad. I think people do rely on that. That it's not you hiring them. The guy goes on his own.
Even though you know it's going to be delivered on Saturday.
Right.
Even overnight,
right.
Friday.
Right. Because he does. Also, nowadays, especially if you. The odds are that he might, since so many people send express mail, especially to businesses and things like that, the odds are he won't do any malacha specifically for you. What malacha is he going to do for you?
He's delivering your package.
Yeah, but that might not require any malacha. It just means that if he's already in the building or the vicinity, and there's an Eruv, certainly.
He's driving the truck.
Yeah, but he's driving for many letters, not just for your letter.
But that building is the only delivery he's making.
You wouldn't know. You don't know that.
Right.
It could be he's making other deliveries. The only thing is, if a signature is required, then that could be a problem. Because the signature you're demanding. Okay? Is the program over? It didn't start yet, or it came in the middle?
Oh, no, I just finished davening Marav.
When are the festivities?
It starts now.
It starts now. Okay. So you're appreciate Mesiras Nefesh for being here. The truth is, I don't know what the heter is. I was discussing this last night. I don't know what the heter for live music is tonight, but
Except the Rabbanah Rashid apparently posking that tonight and tomorrow is the official.
So with live music, I don't think they issue a psak ever on that. That's not the type of thing they issue a psak on.
They made a nit because...
Yeah, they never issue a psak on things like that. Yeah. Singing is okay, can sing all the time. Some people sing as a tsar. All right. First Yom Ha'atzmaut was on a Friday. So, British left Israel on Friday. All right. Did you all know that? I have to teach you guys everything. All right, let's go on.
The British version of Israel, they have...
Yeah, I heard all about it, yeah. On NPR. Says the Gemara further. Am officially Amagoro. We're on top of you, Gimel Amrav. Yeah. by little Aleph. Ema Fishiyam Agodim was not allowed to set sail to an ocean, lo be'erev Shabbos, lo Chamisha Shabbos, not on Friday and not on Thursday. Now, there are 4 reasons given, and probably more, but 4, the Rambam says because you'll get seasick. The Rabbala Mor says because you might have to be Mechal Shabbos, because you're at sea. The Ramban says because the sailors are doing malacha for you. And there are others who say that's because you might come to make flotation devices. So all these 4 reasons are given not to set sail, not on Erev Shabbos nor on Thursday, only earlier in the week. Yerushalmi says not even on Wednesday. They say you're allowed to go out on Wednesday. Now this is clearly a typo. The way the Tuv Yerushalmi on the bottom fixes it up, he says in other words, it was a short trip. Like let's say you're taking a harbor tour, right? Or you're in Venice, right? So could go mitzor letzinon, such as from Tyre to Sidon, which is very short, right? So that's mutter even on Friday, all right? Ein makif in sarkon is obviously a mistake. There's no danger in that. Ein makifin al ir shel akum, when it's not allowed to lay siege to a city of goyim, pachas mishlosh yomim kodem Shabbos, less than 3 days before Shabbos. That's only by an optional war. In a mandatory war, such as the conquest of the land of Israel, one could even lay siege on Shabbos. We found that Yericho was not conquered only on Shabbos. This is you do the 6 days. And it says, by Yom HaShvi, the 7th day, should surround the city 7 days. Now, however, that's only to begin a war. Once you began the war, it says, Aridita, until you destroyed Afilu b'Shabbos. So once in the middle of the war, you continue the war on Shabbos until you vanquish your enemy. Now, I'm a little bit bothered by this one. I want to say lumdus, even though I know it's not pashut. It says, Milchemes Chayvi, you're allowed to start on Shabbos. It makes no sense. How can you start a war on Shabbos, right? So many surim involved. So I want to say it's like Yericho. In Yericho, they didn't really wage war. They just walked around, right? And then the walls came tumbling down, right? What you're allowed to do is you're allowed to engage in the activities which are surrounding warfare, as long as they're not doraisos on Shabbos. Even if I'm talking about now, it's not pikuach nefesh, right? But Milchemes Chova is a mandatory war, which is not pikuach nefesh. You can engage in warlike activities, even though it's Shabbos and it's not contrary to the spirit of Shabbos. But we do not have a riot from Yericho that one can be Mechal Shabbos, because Yericho they weren't Mechal Shabbos. What we have a riot to is you can engage in a war on Shabbos, but not in transgressing. Yes, well, you're sneering.
I don't think it's correct. There is a Milchemes.
Yeah.
law.
No, but that's different because that's preemptive danger. Right. That's preemptive danger, but that's a famous.
Started on Monday.
It's a famous.
It would have happened. It could have happened on Shabbos.
There's a famous case in. I don't know. It's famous. It's famous for us. We learned in Shalvim in 19 before the 67 war, when they were on the border. So they had the Arabs were encroaching on the fields around Shalvim, and they got a psak from Shlomo Zalman that they could go out and work the fields on Shabbos in order to prevent pre-1967. So that because there's such halacha that if the goyim are coming, what you're saying, if the goyim are coming and encroaching upon you, even they're not actually engaging in warfare, one is allowed to be mechal Shabbos in order to preempt them. But I don't think that's the same thing here. This Milchemes Chova against Yericho was not to preempt the goyim. It was not a preemptive strike. It was a conquestive strike.
But they're making a rule for any Milchemes mitzvah. And not just limited. You want to limit this concept of Milchemes Chova to something comparable to Yericho.
That's right.
But we're talking. I think we're talking about a more generalized rule that Mechemes Mitzvah, as here called Mechemes Chova, that you can do it any time, which means that Mute Akum Delesa to conquer Eretz Yisrael.
You can begin on Shabbos.
That's right.
You're happy with that?
I'm very happy with
Okay, I'm not so happy with that. What can I tell you? Why can't you wait till Sunday?
Why?
Yeah.
Because the guy won't think that the Jews are going to start the war on Shabbos. So that's like a surprise.
But that I understand by case of Sakonis to Fashos. Why is that okay even where it's not a Sakonis to Fashos? That's what I understand.
Your mind in accompanying the fulfillment of the mitzvahs aseh, of kibbutz Eretz Yisrael. Why should you hold back?
All right, maybe. Look, I certainly don't have a proof against you. Halacha test. Beishamrim ein nostim oros labdo. One cannot give hides to a tanner. Milo kelim lekoybes, nor garments to a launderer who's nachri, who's a goy. El kadesh yasim b'hodiyom, unless the work will be finished from before Shabbos begins. The kulam beisil material mashamish. Beisil, so you can do it right, give it to him right before sunset. You know, you're rushing to the cleaners right before sunset. Say, here's the clothes. That's okay. Amr Shigamlu said, the custom in my father's house was, they would give the white clothes to a non-Jewish launderer 3 days prior to Shabbos, not less than 3 days before Shabbos. However, both Beisil and Beisham agree, you can put the beams on the oil presses and the grape presses on right before Shabbos, and that's okay. And I'm going to explain why. All right. At Eicha, how far before Shabbos do you have to give it to the launderer? Now, here's a big machlokas between the Korban Eidah and the Pnei Moshe. The Korban Eidah says that according to Beis Hillel, how long before Shabbos do you have to give them? In other words, you can't give mamish right before Shabbos. How long before Shabbos can you give it to a goy? According to Beis Moshe, no. Of course, according to Beis Hillel, give it right before Shabbos. The Shabbos, according to Beis Shammai, what's considered to be long enough before Shabbos so one can give it to a goy at that point? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Chunya, Kamada Arechon Yevo. Let us say concerning this, Kamada Ma Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Chunya, like Rabbi Yochanan said, name Rabbi Chunya, Akadei Hiluch Arba Meal. The amount of time it takes to walk for a meal, which according to various different shittas is 72 minutes, 90 minutes, 96 minutes before Shabbos. That's how much time you have to give before Shabbos. Either again according to the Korban Eidah, according to even according to Beis Hillel, or according to the Pnei Moshe, according to Beis Shammai. Okay. Vikah. Now the Korban Eidah takes out the word Vikah altogether. The Pnei Moshe has a convoluted shot on it. I would say if it's supposed to be here, it's a name. Somebody's name, Vaka. Vaka Nasan Kalov L'Kayves Nachri. Certain individual gave his cane to a non-Jewish launderer, Uba Matzah Ovi Baba Shabbos. And when he came past the launderer's house, he saw the launderer working on Shabbos on it, right? So also, you're not allowed to use those kalim in that Shabbos, right? Because you have to assume that the guy, when you saw the guy working them on Shabbos, it's also. Now, this is even according to Beis Hillel. Even according to Beis Hillel, says you're allowed to give it to him. That's only if you don't go and see this working on Shabbos. If you go and see this working on Shabbos, then that's forbidden. And not only you now let's use it on Shabbos, I'm Rabbi Yehuda, v'yemar leit lo yavod. You got to tell the guy, stop working on my clothes. You can't allow him to continue. If you see him working on your clothes, you can't allow him to continue. You have to tell him to stop.
So
okay?
Even though he had a time enough proof before Shabbos.
Right, and even though it's Biki Boilus, right, it's contracted, it's right, you're not paying him by the hour a cleaner, nonetheless you gotta tell him to stop if you see him actually doing it. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda, the moral of the story is don't go into your cleaners on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda, avoid the Rabbi Masnaya. Rabbi Yehuda, the father Masnaya said, it's not always true. It's only true where the guy is working for free. So he's doing you a favor, so you'd have to tell him, I don't want you to do me a favor. In other words, you're going to owe him a favor at the end. But if he's making money on the deal, even if it's working on Shabbos, everybody knows no matter time why, because of it, asik. Why is he working on Shabbos? Because he wants to make money. He's not doing it for you, but he's doing it for his own salary. This is like I told you before, the heter of a mailman, right? potential heter mailman. He's not doing it for you, he's doing it for his salary. So therefore, want to be allowed to send with the Federal Express guy on Shabbos.
With the laundry, you're paying by the piece. The launderer is not getting paid by the hour.
But he's not working for you. The Mara sign was what? That he's working for you.
Yeah.
He's not working for you. What's he working for? The money.
Yeah, but you're giving him the money.
That may be, but he's not. The reason why he's working on Shabbos is not because I want it quicker, but because he wants to get paid quicker. It's a fine line, but it's a difference enough to make it not Mara sign. I'm not the one telling him to do it on Shabbos. His desire to have money as quickly as possible, that's what making him work on Shabbos. Okay?
So
You're not convinced, are you?
No.
Well, I didn't think so. Okay. Well, it's not so bad.
Subterfuge.
Oh, come on. Scale 1 to 10, this is not the biggest subterfuge we ever had.
So if I go into Christina's right
Yes.
before Shkia,
Yes.
I can do that, according to Beis Hill.
Of course you can, yeah.
Okay, even though, and I don't tell her not to.
You're not going to pick up till Monday anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right. If you came in on Shabbos and saw her working at it, don't go in. Right, it's going past Bnei Ruvain, right? Going to Bnei Ruvain, so you see, the Christina's working on my pants, you got to go in and tell her to stop. But, not according to our Gemara. Because according to our Gemara, now the Maskana, it's only if she was doing it for free, but she's doing it for her money, so we say she's doing it for her money, not for me. Okay? They would give their clothes more than 3 days before Shabbos, the white clothes. It's only the white clothes, so it's flimlo, not color clothes. According on our way here, we learned it's harder to get whites white than it is to get colored clean. Okay. They both agree when it's allowed to put the olives or grapes into the press. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina, Tavei and Omri, they both say, why is that mutter? Because each and every drop is already moved from its place. What does it mean it's moved from its place? In other words, the pressure has already been exerted. We had this yesterday. The pressure has been already exerted on every grape and olive from before Shabbos. So since that's begun, so therefore Beis Shammai allows this and sanctions this case. Now, interestingly, Rabbi Yachab, Rabbi Yisrael Chanina, boy, he asked, Mao Ligav and Moshe are allowed to touch or use the wine or olive oil which is flowing now on Shabbos. Nor, of course, hypothetically, there's an issue of dosh involved, right? But you began the process from before Shabbos, so it's not squeezing out on Shabbos, it's squeezing out from before Shabbos. So what's the status of what's flowing out? So Rabban in the case the rabbis in Caesarea said, Yispalgan Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yisrael Chanina is Malchogos Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Os, Rabbi Yochanan says that which is flowing is forbidden. Rabbi Yisrael Chanina Amar Muta, which is flowing is permissible. Masdisa Pliga, in other words, it's considered ready. Why it should be permissible? Because once you already exerted pressure and cracked the olives and grapes, so whatever flows out is considered ready to had a halachic status of liquid before Shabbos from the moment the fruit was cracked in whatever container is holding it. Okay, Masisipli Rabbi Yisrael Chanina, there's a brayso which argues Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. The brayso says, V'shavin, that everybody agrees, Shloigam Moshe, you may not touch the grape juice or olive oil flowing out. Okay? Halachiyud. Ain't telling basar, batzal, ubeitza, one is not allowed to roast meat, onion, or eggs, unless they will be completely roasted from before Shabbos begins. One may not put a piece of bread or a loaf of bread into an oven right before nightfall, nor a cake onto coals, unless we know that it's going to form a crust from before Shabbos. Now, this is less stringent than the ratio. The ratio required that it be fully roasted from before Shabbos. Here it only has to form a crust. That's sufficient. Rabbi Lezim Warmaker says, you only need the bottom crust to be formed, not the top crust. So Rabbi Boon Bar Kana B'Shem Rabbanan said, if you have a pot which is completely cooked, so one is allowed to leave it, even on top of a stove which has not been emptied of its coals. Why? Because it's fully cooked. Rabbi Zira asked, he assumed that this is based on the following principle, and therefore he could query concerning this. The meat, the onions, and the eggs. Mitstamek the ralo, does it, as it stays on the fire, as it gets successively worse, literally does it shrivel and is bad for it, in which case I can understand why you permitted to leave it on the fire. Or, v'zeh, and on the other hand, other foods, zeh meaning other foods, mitstamek v'yofilo, they get better as they stay in the fire, and therefore it's forbidden to leave them on the fire. Well, actually, I don't think I read this fully correctly. So the way it's a question, it's leading up to this question. Let me do it from the bottom of the alpha again, because I misread it. Rabbi Zira boy, basa batzul beitza mitstamek v'ralo, v'zeh mitstamek v'yofilo, v'atamar achein, and everything else, however, it gets better as it stays on, right? So if everything else gets better on as it stays on, so they should all be forbidden. Why do we mention that they're all forbidden? Maybe that which you said you're allowed to leave stuff on the fire before Shabbos is not even basar, batzel, and beitzah. Maybe it's only chamin, which is like hot water and gets worse as it goes on because more of it evaporates, right? I skipped. No, I didn't skip. I skipped in Mashbiach. Mashbiach says Dilma here means a maisa, just like all over the Yerushalmi. It says it's a maisa. The lo yisar mitzalachamin. It's a maisa which happened once. Somebody heard that the only thing allowed to leave on the fire is something which is mitstamek v'ralo, something which is getting worse as it stays longer on the fire. That's what you heard. Asked Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Shmuel then came. Boy, Rabbi Zira, he asked Rabbi Zira, it says stuff which is hot, which is fully cooked. Also, one is not allowed to leave it on a fire which is not swept out. In other words, when the coals are not yet swept out. Rabbi Birush and Rabbi Yochanan said, "Tavshil shorches bashil kamacha ben jusoi." If, however, you have even an ox meat which is very tough, which got cooked 1/3 of its cooking, mutar ziro gabi kira ketuma. One is allowed to put it back on top of a swept out, not swept out, covered. A grufa swept out on top of coals which are covered. So we see it's not so poshut that mitstamek v'yafilo is also, right? Because these are things where mitstamek v'yafilo, and you're allowed to put it there. Not only that, you're allowed to put it back once you took it off. And now you're allowed to take it back. You're allowed to take it back even if it only got 1/3 of its way cooked beforehand. Look at all these coolers we have, right? So how can you say nita mitstamek v'ralo? Even mitstamek v'yafilo, even if it's not truly fully cooked, you can still put it back, right? Yes?
Could that be insulated? Just because covered?
It was when the coals are covered, yeah. Okay? V'asya kait Omar Demar Rabbi Yaakov Barad b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. This is going like Rabbi Yaakov Barad said, name Rabbi Yochanan. Somebody who rests a pot on top of coals on Shabbos, Masrim bo l'ksheis bashel. We warn him that if you leave it on the fire, that it should get cooked. Ka'achilos ben jusoy to the shiur machal ben jusoy, which is either 1/3 or a half. Usr. Now the carbonator changes the gears here to chayev, meaning that if I put a pot on a fire on Shabbos or Boisai and leave it there and it cooks, machal ben jusoy, that's it. They stone me to death. Finished, right? So that's the flip side of that is that we were said by the Basar Shor, by the ox meat, if from before Shabbos it's cooked kimachol ben jusoy, then I could leave it on the oven on Shabbos, right? I might even be allowed to take it back if I put it back if I took it off. But you certainly could leave it there from before Shabbos, right? Rabbi Yaakov bar Talmud b'Shchia, b'Shem Rabbi Chamin said, Shem Rabbi said, Chamin chuchma kol turkon, hot water which is fully heated, Mutar la'alzina gabi kira sheina keduma. You're allowed to put it back on top of a fire, even though it's not covered with ash. Rabbi Zira said, I don't understand. Before you said lishos haser. Before you said it's not allowed to leave anything on this stove which is not keduma. And now you're saying la'asr mutar. Now you're saying you're allowed to put something back even. How do you reconcile what you said before with what you're saying now? So it says the Gemara Dilma again here. The Mashbiach says the Maisa lois amritz ala Pesach. The truth is the only time you're allowed to put back something in the oven on Shabbos if it's not fully cooked is a Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach you're allowed to put in even if it's Kamacha ben Jasoi cooked. Everything else you're only allowed to put back if it's Nizbash or cold circle, right? It might ought to be Mitztamik Viralo. That's what we're discussing on top. As being Mitztamik Viralo or not. But the only thing which you could back, even though it sounded like before, like you didn't even put ox meat back after this Kamacha ben Jasoi, it's not true. Why? Dilma, we have a Maisa where we learned, you can only do Chazar on a Pesach. The truth is, I think I just made a boo-boo. The ox meat before was that shiur chazara. Yeah, it's shia, not chazara, right? Shia, right. Here we're talking about chazara. So I have to say, the only time chazara is mutar al Korban Pesach. Okay. Only chazara. Shihia is mutar. Even if it's like a machal ben Jusai. Even if it's mitztamik v'yafalo, like ox meat. Whereas chazara mutar, however, that's what we're saying. Chazar is only mutar by what? Korban Pesach. Okay? By Korban Pesach, we're going to see momentarily. No, not because there's a reason. They're not going to since there's reason, Chazal weren't going around them. Chazal allowed them to put it back.
But even the Korban Pesach has to be Michael ben destroyed. Sorry.
I'm saying that now, but I might not say that in 5 minutes. Okay? Says the Gemara further. Asar Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Shimon B'Rebbe Pesach Shenitza called Tzorko. Not if it's Machal Ben Jusoi. It has to be called Tzor only if its Pesach is fully roasted. Mutar Achzira Gabi Kira Sheikh Tuma. You're allowed to put it back, but then there's still a kula. What does the kula you have? You can put it out even without a blech, right? Because kotum is a blech, you don't need a blech. Put it back on the oven even without a blech. No, it's only because of Korban Pesach. I mean, ain't bishulach bishul, yeah, but it's only mutar by Korban Pesach, not by anything else. But everything else, we're not allowed to put it back on open fire, only on the blech. Okay? And again, after the next mission, we'll explain that more. Ain't us this a pas betaner. When it's not supposed to put an oven a piece of bread in the oven before Shabbos, let's get baked from before Shabbos, but not fully baked, even if it just forms a crust. Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yassi said, why is that? The reason saying because women are more careful about bread than cooked dishes. What does it mean they're more careful? What's the difference between bread and cooked dishes? So it's more a tavshil darko lecho roseach. A dish of food you eat hot. Pas ein darko lecho rosachas. You don't eat hot bread. Hot bread was considered very dangerous. We'll see why in a minute. So therefore they would let it cool down before they served it. So therefore there's less of a problem that you might come to leave the bread to bake on Shabbos. Why? Because you don't want to serve piping hot fresh bread. It's not good for you, right? Why it's not good for you? Says the Gemara, Tamanomin, they said over there, I assume in Bovel, Pas chamo, if you eat hot bread, chamso, you get a fever. Chamso betzida, there's a fever next to it. Now, we'll start on a tangent. Let's go off on a tangent. Tzira, if you get bit by a wasp, tzonin, then you treat it with cold water. Akar, if you get bit by a scorpion, chamin, you treat it with hot water. Madamachlif, he who treats a wasp bite with hot water or a scorpion bite with cold water, sakona, he might as well drop dead. Moira Rabbi Lezer b'lechem aponim. However, you should know, even though Rabbi Eliezer said in our Mishnah that all you need is to have even one side of the crust form before Shabbos begins. Only one is sufficient. Even one is sufficient. Eino kriya lechem upon him by the bread and Beis Hamikdash. Eino kriya lechem. It's not called the bread properly. Ad sheikrumu panevetan, or unless it's fully baked crust on all sides in the oven. Okay. Now, getting back to the Korban Pesach. You're allowed to put the Korban Pesach in the oven right before nightfall. It's setting the fire in the Beis Hamoked, which was the place of the climbers to warm themselves up in the Beis Hamikdash. You can set even one corner of the fire, and that's sufficient. That's only in the Beis Hamikdash. B'gvulin, outside the Beis Hamikdash, Kidei Shiyotis Sa'ur Barubo, most of the wood pile which you're burning must be aflame before Shabbos begins. Rabbi Yehuda says, if it's coals, not the majority of the coals have to be lit, as long as some of them are lit, they're going to light the other coals. Talmud Nina, I got a problem. It says over there, in Masechta Pesachim, Yotzu v'tzalu es pischeim. They would go out and roast their Korban Pesach. When Erev Shabbos came out on Pesach, Erev Pesach came out on Shabbos, then they would not roast their Pesach till nightfall. Till after Pesach began, right? Because on Shabbos not allowed to do so, right? So here, how can you possibly allow them to do it im chashecha? Maybe it's going to go into Shabbos, right? And you're not allowed to bake it and not allowed to roast it on Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi said Chabura's reasoning. The Chaburas who made the Korban Pesach were diligent, and therefore they make sure not to cook Chas v'Sholom on Shabbos. Okay? Pesach machzir ad sholi. Now, what happens if you started the Pesach before Shabbos, and now you want to put it back on Shabbos, right? Veisa mazir ad sholi, you can only put it back if it's still whole, because they used to roast it whole, on the spit. Veina machzir muchutach, once it's cut up, you can't put it back in the fire. Rabbi Shmuel B'Shem Rabbi Zira said minei psulo, because then you might come to make a pasuk. How so? Rabbi Yossi V'Yos. Rabbi Yossi said Yasher Koyach, a good smara. A house the chol shalot teheh katzol b'Shabbos. You roast on Shabbos, you don't eat to death. So therefore, we make sure that to draw a fine line between permissibility and for that which is permitted and that which is forbidden. We say, you know what? Mitoshat oimer shu mutar. Since you say that you can only roast it whole, right? Avut so eno tolo so called tzarko mi bodyom. I'm sorry, I scratched it. Mitoshat oimer shu mutar. Were you to allow the guy to put his cut up Korban Pesach into the oven on Shabbos, so then he wouldn't fully cook it before Shabbos begins, because he'd be confident he can continue during the night. Once you tell him it's forbidden that after nightfall he can't put a Korban Pesach in the oven unless it's whole, he makes sure to do all the necessary cooking from before Shabbos begins. Of course, when Erev Pesach comes on Shabbos, it's not possible. But when Erev Pesach comes on any other day of the week, so then you have the capacity to do as much as possible from before Shabbos begins. Right, but let's Rabbi Yossi Shoel. He asked, Tzoleu Sholim, what if to begin with you did roast it whole? The Chodcho, now you cut it up. Mal mechzarte umeshchanise. Can you put it back not to cook but to warm? You put it into a warming oven, right? In order to warm up. And the Gemara doesn't answer, of course. Right? What?
Anyway, if you say you
what?
make it in,
be okay if it's dry.
Wow, who says it's dry? It's Korban Pesach. There's all sorts of juices in it. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda B'Shem Rav said, Arba Maduras Kosher. It said in our Mishnah, when you have a bonfire, normally you have to make sure the majority of the bonfire is lit before Shabbos begins, except for the following four. Maduras Hagefes, a bonfire made out of peat. Maduras Hazevel out of fertilizer. Maduras Hachelev made out of fats. Maduras Kalina made out of pits. Kosher, and in all this case, you don't need to make sure the fire takes over the majority of the fuel even a small amount of fuel will already spread like wildfire. Rabbi B'Shem Rashi said, Choisel Shumali Galinim. If you have a container which is full of pits, kosher, then even you light a little bit of it sufficient. Rabbi Baba Shem said, Barachi said, however, Choisel Shumali Galinim. If you have this package full of pits, if they're all gathered together, peruban, you have to at least light a majority of them. If they're scattered, Barov called prayer, each and every cluster has to be lit a majority thereof. Mao, Polik, what does he argue? What we said previously? We just said previously that if we're talking about a chaysim shumoli galinim, you have a package full of pits, that you don't need to have even the majority lit, even a little bit, right? So it says more, no. Kamba brios, kamba tosh, depends. If it's good barley pit, date, what are we talking about? Good pits. So then you can just burn a little bit of them, and the rest of them will burn. Kamba tosh is if they're weak pits, so not the rest of them burn, and then you have to burn each cluster independently. Okay? Rabbi Yosef Shirimiya and Chanina Matu B'Shem Shem Rab said name of Rab Charoyos Milamata. If you have date wood, not date wood, palm wood below, dates on the mala and other wood on top of the pile, came into Ola Urban Asai Muta. Once the fire leaps between the two parts of the pile, that's considered lit, and you can continue to leave it lit on Shabbos. Rabbi Chelva Shem Ravuna said, Kaira v'ruba. If you have bark on a tree, you have a tree and you have bark around it, so barova kefa. The majority of the circumference of the bark has to be on fire before it's considered to be sufficiently lit for Shabbos. Ma barova kefa. What does it mean, the majority of the circumference? After all, it's a long log, right? Does it mean makom echad, one place around circumference, or barova kef kula, or along the circumference of the entire tree, a majority of circumference all around? Which one is it? Ashkech. So we learned. He found a brayso which says, "Ad shetifso milasos malacha." I forgot what that means. Oh yeah, you have to make the korah flame, the wood flame, until you can no longer use it. At that point, it's still properly lit for Shabbos. So that means that means that it has to be the majority of the log. Because if only the minority of the log is burning, so you just put out the fire and use the rest of it, right? So be sometime when it's no longer suitable to the malach at all. So kini masi sap b'chamin kol shein. Came back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that Rabbi Yehuda said that by b'chamin, by coals, even a minority of fire is lit, even a kosher that's sufficient for Shabbos. He meant also by coals, but there are other cases as well, such as Kwanim in the Beis Hamoked, where there's rizim and the peat fires and all those fires where a mashu is sufficient. Hadron aloch yitzias Shabbos. B'mei madlikin. B'mei madlikin v'amein madlikin. With what you light Shabbos candles and whatnot. In madlikin lo b'lechesh you can't use lechesh nor chosen lo b'chal lo b'sila sa'idom lo b'sila sa'midbar. These are not good wicks. Not with the green stuff which floats on the water. Lo b'zeves nor with pitch, lo b'shava nor with wax. Lo b'shagrik nor with keek nor with castor oil. Lo b'shebesever nor with oil which is made out of trum which must be burned. Lo b'ayin now with fats from the tail. Lo b'chel now with forbidden fats. Nachma omer maliki mechel mevusha. One is allowed to use kol fats. But makes a difference is cooked or not. You're not allowed to use it. Okay? Lo b'lechesh. What is lechesh? Barbomar luncha. I bet you all know what luncha is, right? Bet you all care, right? Rabbi Yaakov Shem Rabbi Layo dadinun. It's dadinun. I mean, they said hiado, have no fear. Luncha and dadinun are the exact same commodity. For lo b'chosen, you may not need to use chosen. Yeah, it's something for which you make wicks. Some fiber. Okay? Rabbi, I lost my place. Lo chosen. Rabbi Pinchas said, Pishush lo ninara, it's linen or flax, which has not yet been combed. Like it says, Vayachason in the Ores. chatzon, it's going to be nourishing them. It's going to be fuel for a fire. Well, b'chaloch, what's chaloch? Agvun kesari, Caesarean agvun. Our Rishon Gamliel said, Chazarti al Kom Farshir, I went to all the sailors, Vomli, and they said, Kulcha Shmo. Its name is Kulcha. Lo b'silas Edon, what's silas Edon? The wick of the Edon tree, or Nisan. V'lo b'silas Edon, what is that? B'kamashum Shmua, like it sounds like, a wick which grows in the desert. V'lo b'roko shel b'alpnei mayim, Kitan demoy, that's water and flax. Not with oil, not with pitcher, not with wax. Until then, including the green algae on the stuff. That you are going to use for psilos, for wicks. For now, we're discussing what you're going to use as oils. Rav Yochanan said, why are you not allowed to use all these oils? Because the fire retreats. And you'll take out the wick. Now,
I think I got that white. Let me check.
Well, why don't they both take inside?
Both by the wicks and by the fuel. He says because it doesn't seize properly, or afraid you're going to ruin the whole setup because it's not burning properly anyway. Right. Another reason is, but well, he said at the end of the previous paragraph is how you need the fire to already have consumed the majority of the fuel, and here that's not the case. Why is here not the case? Because here it's a very distinct minority. It might not even work at all based on prior experience, right? Rabbi Zir asked, I thought that's the case. Psila tzricha also berov adolik. And you should, whenever you use a wick, you should have to light the majority of the wick before you, like Shabbos candles, you should have to light the majority of the wick, right? You're going to draw a parallel to the previous paragraph, so you should have to have most of your wick lighted from before Shabbos begins. Shabbos is very rarely the case, right? Is that clear? Is the question clear?
I understand the question. I just didn't realize that Shabbos candle, you don't light most of the wick.
Of course you don't light most of the wick. You just light the tippy top.
But you know that it's going to burn down.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be enough. That's our kasha. It should not be enough. If you're going to draw a parallel to the previous parak, so it should not be enough that it's a quality wick. You should have to light the majority of it.
They're worried that it's going to go out.
What?
Aren't they worried that it's going to go out if you don't like the majority of it?
We're not. Why not? That's the one question. And Asar Rishur Yerushalmi Shabbos said, Silas tzrichot also berov adolik. Yitaka have to light the majority of each wick, right? Yitaka have to do that. Wait a minute. They asked, how can this be? For Korah, what about with a beam? We said by a beam that you lit before Shabbos. So what we said is you need the majority of the circumference, but not the majority of the beam. Big difference, right? You need the majority of the circumference, but not the beam itself. Vashasisa, also by shasisa, which is a regular wick of a candle. Well, like we're discussing here, you don't light the majority of the wick, right? Rabbi Sima said, Loken Rabbi Zira, did not Rabbi Zira say, Rabbi Yehuda Shem Rav, Armadurus Kol Shem. There are 4 types of bonfires where you don't have to light the majority of the bonfire, rather a little bit because it'll spread quickly. Meduras Hageves, the bonfire of peat. Meduras Hazev, the bonfire of garbage. Meduras Hacher, the bonfire made out of fat. Meduras Kalinim, and the bonfire made out of pits. Kol Shem. No matter how little, it's sufficient. And so, from this we learn that wherever it's an efficient and quick fire, you don't have to light the majority of the fire. Only a small amount suffices. Even a small amount suffices. So the same thing we say is true about a wick on Shabbos. A wick on Shabbos, you don't have to light the majority of the wick. You just light the tippy top, that's sufficient because already it's going to spread properly and rapidly down the rest of the. Vod minador. I have another proof for this. Now I'm afraid I'm gonna muff this up because Mashbiach changes gears soon. I don't have it in front of me, but let me try anyway. Didn't Rebbe teach us Shabbos Shechaliyos b'Chanukah? When Shabbos comes on the Chanukah, also l'ros matbeah or Chanukah. You're not allowed to see a wick by candlelight and see what's going on, even though it's Shabbos candles. So it says more Areya no Shchiach Umotzi Sabsila.
I knew I was going to get it wrong.
Alright, let's leave it for now because I don't have the Mashbiach in front of me. I forgot what he said, and anyway, we did more than 2 blot, so we start from Od Minadot tomorrow.